Do-dee-dee-dee-doo-dee-dee-doo-dee-dee-doo-dee-dee-doo-dee. Start trilling those lips and happy patting those thighs, because this episode we're letting our stimming freak flags fly, and we can't be the only ones making a ruckus in the hallway. In what will surely need a follow-up episode, this ADHD Learning Corner, we're laying the groundwork on hyper/hyposensitivities and stimming, aka self-stimulatory behaviors. And no, we don't mean masturbating, you wish. Kristen gets them itchy legs and reveals the PEMDAS of her perfect hug. Grace loses her Potter's Potties privileges and enjoys the process of a burp. And we both ask the important questions, such as, do friends hug? And how's your relationship holding up to the corn song? We'll eventually do a part 2 that will include a more thorough breakdown of autistic versus ADHD stims, sensory seeking versus sensory avoiding behaviors, and other things we forgot. But until then, drape yourself in velvet and fidget your way through part 1 of this chaotic stimisode.
They said that we'd grow out of it. Well, the joke's on them, that's just our brains. We're eccentric, loud, and stubborn, and most of our clothing is covered in stains. It's not a deficit of attention, there's just too much to think about. So if executive dysfunction becomes a little too much, if you forgot why you came in this room, or you're hypersensitive to touch, then put on your seamless socks and come join our little flock. Bitches stimming together, we're weirds of a feather. Weirds of a feather. Ah! Caw-caw!
How is my sound?
Your sound is good. How is my sound?
Let's find out.
All right.
All
right.
Is that it? Are we ready to go?
Yeah.
Blast off?
Blast off.
All right.
Okay. Got a warm-up question. I think I've already used this before.
Question before your warm-up question.
Yeah.
Pre-warm-up question.
Yeah.
Should we introduce the podcast before we do a warm-up question? Probably.
Yeah,
Although,
I mean...
We say our name a bunch in
and
the
then
intro.
it's like 20 minutes in and you're like, oh, this
Welcome to Weirds of
I kind of like it, but
I think it's funny. But now that I brought it up, I feel like let's just get it out of the way now.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Welcome to Weirds of a Feather, an ADHD-adjacent podcast. I'm your host, Grace.
And I'm your host, Kristen.
And look at us. We introduced the podcast properly.
Yep.
And we're very good at it.
We're really good at following the rules and being proper.
You know us.
Yep.
All right. Now I'm ready for your warm-up question.
We're by the book.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Never stray.
That's us. They say, oh, Grace and Kristen, they're by the book to the
they
T.
are sticklers for the rules.
Yep. Watch out for those kids.
Their podcast is so highly scripted. It's insane.
Yep.
That's us.
It's like reading.
Yeah.
So scripted.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a warm-up question.
Okay, lay it on me.
I think I've already said this one before, but I want to revisit the topic.
Oh, God. Okay.
And I think it relates to what we're talking about today. Are you a scratchy towel or a soft, fluffy towel fan?
Scratchy towel, 100%.
See, what?
If it's too fluffy,
Yeah.
I feel like it's not doing the job properly.
You're just not drying properly.
No, it feels like it's not absorbent enough. I like a fluffy towel, but I need it to have some scratch to it. It's the same as like a soft toilet paper. If it's too soft, I don't want it.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I feel like it doesn't get the job done.
Well, I think with toilet paper, when you get too fluffy, it just kind of it's just like, yeah.
Little bits.
But I think like the Charmin Ultra and the ultra soft ones are great.
No, I hate it. I want a firm feeling, you know?
So you only do one ply. You've heard it here.
Well, that's
one ply.
My parents do one ply. And it seems like at the store nowadays, it's either one ply prison toilet paper or it's like wipe them with a cloud.
Right.
And both are bad, but I'd rather have the prison toilet paper, honestly, because at least I feel like I'm going somewhere.
I used to be a one ply family household. You know my parents.
Yes. Very practical.
Yep. But Christopher has he's a big on the fluffy toilet paper. So we buy the fluffy toilet paper now.
No.
And now I can't, it's not that I can't look back because I do.
It's that you won't.
Is that I would prefer not to. The fluffy toilet paper is nice, just like fluffy towels. He's a fluffy toilet paper but scratchy towel man.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I say be consistent, you know? If you have one stance, you stand by that. And I stand by my dislike of toilet paper and towels that are too fluffy.
I'm fluffy all the way.
You are fluffy all the way.
Yeah. Even like my sheets, I bought this pair of sheets. They're too scratchy. No. One, because they're cheap. They're like, the thread count is not good.
See, I hate a scratchy sheet.
Yeah.
I want a soft sheet.
See, you're not even consistent.
Well, sheets are different. I'm not trying to remove something from my body. I'm trying to relax and be cozy in it.
Right.
If I were to lay in a bed of toilet paper, I would want it to be the soft kind, not the scratchy kind, you know? And if I were to try to dry myself off with a sheet, I'd want it to be scratchier.
No.
It'll get the job done.
No.
A silky sheet, what's that going to do? You're just rubbing it around your body?
Different. It's not even, silk isn't even soft. I don't like silk or the satin or the silk sheets. They're not even soft.
All right. I have a question. This makes me think.
Yeah.
So recently, our Australian friend Russ in the Facebook group.
Russ, yeah.
If for those of you who aren't in the Facebook group, you should join because there's a lot of really great quirky combos going on in there.
Right.
Thank you to all our listeners, by the way, that are participating in our Facebook group. You guys are an awesome community.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
And so we've been doing a poll in there of what characters you and I are from different television shows. It started by someone compared us to Jake and Charles, right?
From Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yes. Which I am Jake, you are Charles. Sorry. But Enya brought up the good point that we are actually more similar to Amy and Rosa. But recently Russ posted in the Facebook group throwing out Kramer and George Costanza, which we're both insulted. By the way, Russ, we're both insulted.
I love it. It's so chaotic. I don't know who's who though, because I can see.
Well, I was going to say George has a grand appreciation for cashmere. Or no, for velvet. He has a grand appreciation for velvet. If he could drape himself in velvet, he would, if it were socially acceptable, is what he says about velvet.
I think it doesn't have to be socially acceptable to drape yourself in velvet.
I agree. Also, nothing
What
George
side
does
of velvet are you
acceptable.
talking about? That's my other question, because
just a velvet.
There's a soft velvet, but then the backing is always that scratchy back.
He likes a soft velvet.
Okay, so the velvet would be touching his skin.
Yes.
It would not be for the onlookers. It would be for him.
For the feeling. Yeah, the sensory.
So like a
feeling.
velvet. Why doesn't he just get a coat with a velvet lining? They do that all the time.
That's a good question, but he just wants to be draped in velvet.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I don't think either one of us is really a George. We have a few George neurotic elements, I would say, but the love of very, very soft things might go in your box of George Costanza.
Check me out for George.
Yep. You're a George through and through.
Right.
I've always said that. No, if anything, I think we're more like Kramer and Elaine, you know?
Yeah. You would be Elaine?
Yeah.
And I am
would like to think so.
Kramer likes to find things too. He likes to find Cuban cigars.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm not...
You are more a Kramer, I would say.
You're
more a Kramer than a George. And I think that I have Elaine's, well, you also have some Elaine in you. Elaine is not afraid to yell at anyone in public, and I love that about her. She is feisty. She doesn't give a shit.
I wish I could yell at people more.
You could. You just gotta channel it.
I just gotta channel it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry I ended us up on Seinfeld. If you know which Seinfeld characters we are, write us in.
Write us in at weirdsofafeather@gmail.com.
Or go in the Facebook group, Weirds of a Feather, and add something to the poll or give us a vote.
Big, long poll. You can't miss it.
Yep. It's going. And I love it. It's fun. Okay.
Yeah.
Great warm-up question, Kristen.
Yeah. We've got a show for you today. We've got a great episode.
Oh, yes.
I don't know why I said it like that. It just felt right.
And it was.
We're going to talk about stims and sensitivities.
We're both very sensitive, and now we're going to talk about it.
Episode. Oh, we should have done like an ASMR episode where we talked in whispers and had sensory music behind us.
I don't think people would like that.
No,
and
they probably wouldn't be able
like
to.
That.
Yeah, I hate the ASMR. It's the whisper that bothers me.
It's the mouth sounds. There's so many mouth sounds when you're doing ASMR,
and they also do. It's always these femme presenting people who have these long nails, and they just tack the nail, and I'm like, that's a big trigger for me. I don't like
like
it.
that
I
one?
don't like the sound of nails.
Mm.
I just don't like nails. I don't think we need them. Here's a poll. Do we actually need nails as the human race?
Haven't
No.
we already talked about this like
No.
a long time ago in the podcast? Where
We talked about biting nails.
We talked about nubbins.
Nubbins, yes. We talked about nubbins versus nails for sure. And a lot of people were nubs. Team nubs.
I remember a
We've
lot of
gotten
people
new
being
listeners
anti-team nubs.
But on the poll, a lot of people were team nubs, and we've had new listeners since then. My question is, as a human species, there is no purpose to nails.
Yes, there is. And once again, I will stand by my stance. Scratching.
You can scratch with nubs.
No, you can't.
You can't.
So inefficient. I don't like it.
Well, stop being so itchy.
I can't, and I won't, and I refuse. All right, let's get into our little accomplishments. We got a long-ass episode.
Oh, man, we do. We have a very long episode.
What are we doing?
Should we get into our little accomplishments?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Little accomplishments, but big in our hearts. All right,
Hey.
Kristen, why don't you tell me your little accomplishment for this week?
It hasn't come in the mail yet, but I bought a new laptop.
Finally, God.
Woo!
How old is your current laptop?
This is a 2014 MacBook Air. My nephews are younger than my computer.
I know. If your laptop was a child,
Yeah.
you would be in like 3rd or 4th grade by now.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Look at you. You've raised that boy into a man.
Yeah, it's so what prompted me to do this is yesterday while I was like, let me sit down and, write out the episode. It just didn't turn on for like 2 hours. And I was like, well, it's done this a couple times before. And I had to get Christopher because he's like, tech quiz. And then I got berated by not only how messy my desktop is, I'm like embarrassed, but it's just like random documents everywhere. And then I haven't done any updates whatsoever. He's like, what updates have you done to it? I was like, you're looking at it.
The 2014 update, obviously.
Right. And he's like, okay, and you haven't done any other things to it? I go, no, she's in pristine condition.
But really, how is that thing still running?
I don't know.
Because you're not great at like maintaining, obviously, your stuff.
No, I break phones all the time.
Yeah, I broke my MacBook so long ago where I went to close it and it was like on the edge of a table and it just flipped right off and landed screen down.
Yeah. No, this thing's, she's going strong. But yeah, she does like to randomly shut off for like hours at a time. And then also my cord is held together with medical tape and it doesn't really hold a charge well. And I can't run certain, like Zoom is a really hard program to run on it because it just takes so much.
I would say at this point in your life, it's definitely more than time for you to get a new laptop.
Yeah. I'm also doing the switch from Mac to PC.
Ooh, that's a big one.
So now I have to relearn how to do that. But
it's a whole new world.
Yeah. Christopher said he'd help me out because I'm going to need it.
Yeah.
I had to go through all my files and email them to myself as like a PDF form because they're all in like doc files, the Mac like .zip or whatever.
Yeah, but can't those just transfer over?
They can, but if I'm going to a PC, I have to transfer them to a PDF.
Oh my God.
Right? So, you know what? I don't know many computer things, but I know that the PCs don't like the zips.
Oh, I don't know. I have a PC and I don't know much about it.
Yeah. So
I know it's a hardware.
Yeah. So I had to send all my files to myself as a PDF, and then I had to make sure I had a big like Excel, but it was like the Mac Excel version of all my passwords and stuff. So I had to change that to a PDF and email that to myself and do all this stuff and then find a computer online, which I thought I found one. And then I was told, no, you need this one. And that's the one I went with. It's black. It's got buttons.
Ooh, good. You're going to need those buttons.
I'm going to, yeah. I go, what did I say? I go, well, because right now this computer cannot do Microsoft Teams. And every time I have a meeting with Jean, my financial advisor, I need to go on Microsoft Teams because that's how we do business. And so I'm like, oh, do you think the new computer will be able to do Microsoft Teams? And Christopher, like the biggest eye roll, he goes, it just might even have Google. I'm like,
So I'm guessing that was a dumb question.
yeah,
then.
apparently. Yeah. But so
Woo!
I've been putting it off, and I bit the bullet.
Yep.
That's
You got that one right.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Actually, that makes me think that you do kind of tend to mix up expressions a lot. And my friend Tori just sent me, because she does that too. And apparently there's a name for it. I'll have to look it up later. Because there's a name for doing that exact thing of pounding sand and
Pounding sand.
mixing up your expressions. I'll have to find the word.
I still like pounding sand.
I love pounding sand. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a big step. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What was your little accomplishment?
Okay, well, I was going to do that. Ian and I painted my new office, but I kind of want to switch it to I did organize my desktop on my laptop.
Whoa!
Randomly last night.
This is actually going to be a technology-based episode.
Yes, you know us. We're
going to talk
tech.
about PCs and Macs.
The cloud.
Yeah, clouding.
Yep.
And
that verb.
And
typing.
There's something called rendering that Christopher was trying. He's like, you can even render on that computer. And I was like, great.
Oh, good. I've been wanting to do some rendering.
I've been like, oh, man, if there's only some way I could render.
If only I could render. But really, I organized my desktop side to have just a bunch of random icons spread out.
I hate that so much.
I hate it too. But I wouldn't organize it.
Miscellaneous documents, and then when you put them away, you're like, where can I put them? Because I usually put them in a folder, Yeah. And then I'm like, this is so ridiculous. I'm just going to put it on the desktop. Hence, my desktop is just like insane.
All right, so I just made 3 folders.
Yeah.
I have a WOF folder.
Nice.
A personal folder.
Nice.
And an ADHD for Smartass Women folder.
Nice.
And then, so that takes care of all the miscellaneous stuff that's like my personal stuff. I'll just put in personal, you know?
Yeah.
And so at least it's cleaned up in folders.
In your personal folder, how many folders do you have in the personal folder?
A bunch. But I'll go looking for stuff, you know? I'll find it. Because usually leaving stuff out helps me because I can see it right there. But none of that stuff I need to be out. It's just there, taking up space. And I do the thing where every time I look at it, I'm like, this is so cluttered. I wish this wasn't like this. Oh, well. Yeah. Guess I'll just be mad.
There's only some way I could fix this.
But there's not. So shouldn't even try.
Should deal with it. Yep.
So last night, for some reason, I was suddenly overcome after like literally years of never doing that ever. I was like, I should organize this. And I'm
so proud of you.
Thank you.
That's such like a personal difficulty for me that I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. And if I ever try to schedule time to do that, because I have, the time comes, I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yep.
It has to be a moment of inspiration.
Yep.
Every 7 years.
You just have to like have the right, the moon and the stars have to be aligned.
Yeah. And aligned they did.
I'm hoping with my new computer I can be a little bit more organized, but I know that's just like a fool's hope.
A fool's dream.
Yeah.
A whisper into the wind. I think if you start from the beginning, you'll have the best shot at it. Of just, give yourself very large, vague folders to put things in.
Personal. I'll probably do personal, work, WOF.
Yeah.
Probably like PA/professional. Put like my CV in there.
Yeah, I think it's the thing where if we have very specific places to put things, we will do it. Hopefully. I mean, I'm sure we'll still fall off the wagon. But
you never know.
You never know. Okay, that was my little accomplishment. Woo! Let's get into ADHD Learning Corner because we got a long one.
We got a long one, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, strap in and
it's gonna
strap
be great.
on and get ready. We
are talking about stims and I put hypersensitivities, but it's just sensitivities.
Okay.
Because you can't have we're going to talk about it in a second.
All right. Let's talk about it.
Stims and sensitivities. That's what we're talking about today. Do you have them?
Probably.
You probably do, because we're going to talk about a lot of them. But I want to just take a little moment. With our ADHD learning corners, we've been trying, or at least I have. I know, Grace, you go on a lot of websites and like Attitude Magazine and like
Chad.
legit sources. I've been trying to do a lot of peer-reviewed research, which has been a little difficult because a lot of things are like based on, there's a lot of bias in research, wouldn't you know, and in the whole medical field. But there's a lot of bias and, usually a lot of studies are done on like white men or with ADHD, a lot of studies are done on like children.
White boys,
basically. Yeah. And so it's really difficult to get this like all encompassing list or like a nice like peer-reviewed study on things that we've been talking about that's up to date. I've found a lot of research that like, you know, we now know to be false, which is like part of the research. This is why we have research, because you have to, you know, go through the process and have your peers do your research for you, or peer review it and repeat the results. And that's the whole process. But it's been a little difficult because there is a lot of bias. And I just want to make that known that like at least for me, I'm not going to have 18 articles of reference for you that are all like peer reviewed, beautiful studies, just because we just don't know that much about it. It's also hard to do research in like behavioral medicine and psychology and psychiatry because it's hard to measure subjective findings. And what I mean by that is like, how do you put a number on feels? You know, and so that's I know a lot of people are trying to do that, and they're coming up with different ways and exploring. And I did find some good articles, but it is really difficult to do. How do you measure and quantify something that's just like unquantifiable?
Yeah, especially when there is a lot of like, you know, ignorance and ableism even within like the psychiatry field.
Oh, for sure.
Where, yeah, I kind of do the thing where once I started learning about ADHD and autism like for real and realizing like how incorrect a lot of stuff is in psychiatry when it comes to those things, like even, you know, the DSM leaving out like very key elements of ADHD. So I kind of do the ADHD thing of like, once I find out that like maybe, you know, some of this is false, I'm like, oh, reject all of it. You know, all of this is bad. I'm like, no, that's not good either. Some of it is good. But like you said, it's part of reading the research and kind of deciding what you think about it or believe about it. A really important part of that is, deciphering, you know, really analyzing what you're reading and really looking at other sources to confirm, and then like listening to ADHD and autistic people speak about their own experiences too, you know?
Exactly.
So I don't think it's right to just lean on one or the other too heavily, essentially.
Exactly. You know? Yeah, exactly. But I did find some articles, and I just wanted to say that I did find it. It's from 2011, so it's not very new, but it is boop, 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 boop. Where the fuck did I put it? Sensory processing problems in children with ADHD, a systematic review. This was a meta-analysis from, which means they look at a lot of different articles from all over. In 2011, that was published from the Korean Neuropsychiatric Association, and I thought it was like a good, all-encompassing. I thought it was good. I thought they did a good job. So here we go. Let's get a couple things down first, though. Hypersensitivity. We talk about that a lot. You're hypersensitive. It's an over response to a stimulus, which what we're talking about is like smell, touch, visual cues like lights, any sort of sensory need. Hyposensitivity is an under response. So this could be like a slow response, like you're slow to respond. So something we've talked about before is an auditory processing disorder, which is like your brain is a little bit slow to respond. It takes a minute to respond to the verbal cue, or you just have no response. You just don't have a response to a certain stimuli. And then I wanted to go through a couple of a lot of people with ADHD have these hyper or hyposensitivities to certain senses. Let's talk about first one's up is touch sensitivity. How sensitive are you to touch?
I'm very sensitive to it in certain ways.
Yep.
Where, you know, it's the whole, you know, tags really bother me. My clothes can't be too restrictive.
Right.
You know,
your hard pants.
Yeah, my hard pants, can't wear hard pants. I'm very sensitive and bothered by like sensory input in that sense. But then I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'll have to think about it a bit. But yeah, I think I'm pretty hypersensitive to touch.
I think I'm a combo. I think it kind of depends on the thing. But I did find a study in the Journal of Research and Development, Developmental Disabilities that measured the fingertip force of adults with ADHD, which was like, this is such a great study because they are actually studying like adults with ADHD. Finally. Anyway, they measured the fingertip force. So like basically them pressing a button, how forceful they were pressing it, and they found that adults with ADHD pressed, in this particular study, press buttons harder than neurotypicals. And
I can relate to that.
They're thinking that maybe this group of ADHDers, it might be that they had a hyposensitivity or a decreased sensitivity to tactile input. So they're pressing harder to get that stimulus of like, I've pressed this fucking button. Pressing it.
Well, Ian makes fun of me for smashing on my keyboard, he says all the time. And I tell him I'm typing with purpose.
Yeah. You always sound like you're writing a strongly worded email.
Yeah, because usually
a company. Very disappointed.
I'm always very passionate when I'm typing.
Right.
But I wonder how much of that is my ADHD and how much of that is my nonverbal learning disorder, because that also has to do with like perception of distance and like how much kind of like pressure or strength to apply. So I bet it's a fun combo.
Everybody likes a combo meal.
Yep, that's me.
There's another thing called tactile defensiveness, and this is a hypersensitivity. It's an increased response to a tactile stimuli. Studies have found that females with ADHD or femme presenting have a higher incidence of tactile defensiveness than males, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And it's also highly associated with anxiety disorder. So some ways this can present is maybe like an over response to like a small injury, like a cut or a burn, or not wanting to brush your hair. They found like children with this, a lot of times they have like a dirty face. They don't want to wash their face because they don't like the like tactile sensation of the water on their face or something like that.
Interesting.
But yeah, highly associated with anxiety, which is interesting to me.
Yeah. So do you feel that? Like, do you feel like you kind of have a heightened response to like an injury or something like that? I feel like you're kind of hypo sensitive in that sense. Sometimes
I feel like I always compare myself to my patients because I have a lot of patients who have chronic pain. They have multiple systemic issues going on. And then they're also like usually from rural areas, and they're like, yeah, I've got chronic back pain, and I've got a necrotic foot that we're just looking at, but I still got to do my farm chores. And I'm just like,
oh God,
I would be on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you're doing this. And they're like, I just want to get back to work. And I'm like, oh my God, take a break.
I know.
Take a day off. I would be crying. I think some things really bother me. Touching.
You like a hard.
I like a hard pat for a hug.
Yes, it's a point of contention.
You know
between
what?
you and
I'm
Christopher.
unwilling to. Okay, this is going to end my relationship for Christopher. We hug differently. He likes like a full, like front to front, arms wrapped, slow embrace, no talking hug. That's a lot for me. That's too much.
No talking.
Just like I feel your energy because your front is on my front. You know, it's not even a side hug. And
Kristen, he's your boyfriend of over a year. A side hug is for like your stepdad that you don't want to fully touch fronts with.
I'll never say no to a side hug.
I'll do a side hug, but I think like with your partner, I mean, I'm not going to judge you on your hugging style.
You know what? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because I am judged quite often for my hugging style.
I know you are. I was also judged as a child growing up for my hugging style. Mine is more, I don't like the social awkwardness of the point in the conversation where it's time to hug. It's do we hug? Do we do a front hug? Do we do a side hug? Where do your arms go? I don't like there's so much up in the air and it's so awkward that I'd rather just not.
And it's only been more awkward with COVID. Like, is this appropriate to hug? I feel like I asked, is it appropriate to hug? Can I get away with it without hugging? Because I'd rather not hug.
Yeah.
But is this a huggable situation? And what do I do? Anyway.
But the hug you prefer is
if I could have my choice in hugs, it would be a brief hug. It can be front to front. That's fine. With a little pat on the back, and then we part ways. And that's my perfect hug. And I'm
that's my perfect hug.
Ridiculed for this, okay? Ridiculed. We're taking a poll. Do you like a pat on the back with a hug, or are you more of a solid embrace? Are you an embracer or are you a patter? And like maybe this is so. Christopher thinks this all comes from like the Catholic Church, where that whole upbringing of like we don't understand affection, which could be true, but I think this is just my preference.
Yeah.
And so like we'll have like an emotional moment, and I go in and I do my preferred hug, which is a pat on the back, and he hates it. He hates it, and he thinks I'm being dismissive of his feelings, and I'm trying to tell him I'm not being dismissive. This is my preferred hug.
It's how you show your affection.
Right, exactly.
You're not, I can see both sides, but I think now that you've explained it to him, I think he should accept it as your PH.
This
your
is actually,
hug.
I have never explained this so well until I've explained it just now.
Oh,
and so now I got to go back and I got to tell him.
Get him to listen to this episode.
My preferred hug.
All right, what if he were to give you a really tight squeeze? Because I know you like a firmer feel.
How tight and how long are we squeezing?
Well, that would be between the two of you to figure out.
Because if it's too tight of a squeeze, I get nervous because I can't breathe. And then if it's too long of a squeeze, I get what I call like itchy legs, where I have to I gotta be free.
Get out of here! I'm a caged animal. Well,
so if it's like a brief, solid, and then we part, that's okay.
Okay.
But these
just sounds like you don't like hugs in general. You'd prefer not to.
I like a pat on the back.
What about a pat on the back without even the hug? What if he were just to come up behind you and give you some firm pats on the back?
So here's my other thing.
He does it sarcastically, and you're like, I like that.
Yeah. And I get so upset because he does it sarcastically, and I'm like, oh, and he's like, it was supposed to be a joke. And
it's funny.
I genuinely prefer a pat on the back. That is what I genuinely prefer.
Okay, you need to have him listen to this episode then.
I know. I'm going to sit him down.
Christopher, your way of hugging isn't necessarily right. It's just what you prefer.
Right.
As is Kristen's. She
right.
prefers a
and so
firm pat.
I feel like I've tried to accommodate, and I've done the solid embrace, but it doesn't feel genuine to me. I just feel like this is what we're supposed to do.
This is what humans do.
Right. That's exactly how I feel. This is what's supposed to be happening now, and
Time to act out affection.
Yeah. That's how I feel sometimes. But then when you do the pat on the back, I'm like, oh, you genuinely care.
Yeah.
It's my preferred hug.
I respect it. All right, sorry to derail us.
Yeah, that was quite the derailing, but I'm glad we talked about it because I actually feel a lot better.
Yeah, glad. You have support here. I won't judge you for your hugging style.
All my therapy is here in the pod loft.
Good. Well, you and I have always been weird about hugging as friends. I feel like we don't hug.
Do friends hug?
Apparently they do.
Why? I'm going to see you tomorrow.
I've always been like that with most of my friends, like me and you, me and Haley. Haley and I never hug.
We never hug. I've never hugged any of my, unless I'm doing a long goodbye. And then once again, it's like, this is what's supposed to be happening now. We're supposed to be, this is like the order of operations.
The PEMDAS of hugging.
Right? And I feel like it's not genuine, but I'm like, but this is what everybody's supposed to do.
See, I like a nice hug when I'm saying goodbye to a close friend for a while, Yeah. But not with you because I know you don't like it.
Yeah, we just say, I do like a little wave. Yeah. That's what I do with my patients now that COVID, because I used to go in there I remember being trained as a PA. They're like, you got to shake all your patients' hands. And apparently everybody likes, all my patients prefer a firm handshake. And I'm like, that's once again, that's my PEMDAS. I go in with a handshake, and I got a good handshake, but then COVID hit. And now it's like, I don't want to be touching people without gloves on. So now I do a little wave, and I think I'm keeping it.
Keep it. Yeah. I like it.
That's my wave.
All right. My apology for derailing has once again derailed us.
All
right. Visual sensitivity.
Visual sensitivity.
Tell us, Kristen, tell us.
So many people with ADHD have photophobia, which is the hypersensitivity
of light. Fear of light.
Yes. Technically yes.
I'm scared to death of it. It's terrifying.
You're derailing the conversation again,
and it's gonna keep happening.
It's keep happening. Okay, so it's you're not scared of the light. It's a hypersensitivity. That's what it's called, hypersensitivity to light. And stimulants like Adderall, like Vyvanse, like Ritalin can exacerbate this.
That makes so much sense, and I didn't know that. I know it could exacerbate our sensitivity to heat, but I didn't realize the light one. And now I'm having so many things clicking for me because light bothers me so much.
I know it does. You have all the special light bulbs.
I have my special light bulbs.
Yeah, whatever works for you.
Purple light bulbs.
That's all I got on this one.
Okay.
I thought I had more, but I don't.
All right.
Because let's talk about smells.
Let's.
I feel like my sense of smell is weird. and we just talked about this, but like smells that I think I've worked in healthcare for so long that smells that are really bothersome or should be are no longer because they're like an everyday thing.
So you've been like
bodily functions, gangrene, stuff like that. It registers as like, this is unpleasant, but it's not like I'm having a strong reaction to this, right? Other smells, stinky feet, when someone comes into the workplace and they microwave their salmon fillet and then eat it in a tiny office with 6 other people.
Anyone specific you want to call out for that, Kristen?
No, just a random example. Yeah, that fucking bothers me. And I've talked about it before. So I feel like I don't want to say that I'm hypersensitive to smells or hypos. I think I'm a mixed breed. I think it depends on the smell for me.
Same.
To be honest. However, they have found in peeps with ADHD, I think this study was done on children, once again, children.
Ugh, dumbass kids.
The odor threshold is lower in people with ADHD than what they're calling healthy control subjects. I don't like that word. This was from 2011. We're going to call them, I'm paraphrasing to neurotypical.
You can be healthy and still have ADHD.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm.
Oh, maybe they're saying like they're healthy.
Like they're not like, they don't have any
damage to their olfactory.
Got it. I'm just going to call them neurotypicals.
Okay.
I'm paraphrasing the article. But
and like a lower threshold means that it takes like less of the smell to give you a reaction to it, right?
So you're possibly more sensitive to smells, or you can smell smells better. Or smells when there's less of the smell to smell.
Smell.
However, so even though you can smell the smell when there's less smell to smell, the odor discrimination or identification, so figuring out so if you smell oranges, so let's say I put 1 orange in the room and you can smell it, but a neurotypical can't. They can only smell it when I put 2 oranges in the room. However, both of you, no matter how many oranges are in the room, will still recognize the smell as oranges at the same level.
Huh.
Right?
Interesting.
And then another study said even though the odor threshold was lower, that they found that children with ADHD could not identify the smells regardless of how much smell, as well as neurotypical controls.
Okay, now that you're saying this, yes, I have this. I am very sensitive to smells. Like I can often smell things that even Ian can't, even though he's also ADHD, where I can smell things and he can't. But I have a hard time identifying what they are, even though I'm very sensitive to it.
Well, so they're thinking because your olfactory nerve is near your prefrontal cortex. So they're like, is there prefrontal involvement? Maybe. Don't know. And they also said stimulants improve the odor sensitivity, but still don't improve any sort of like odor identification.
Okay. Thought going off of that. You know how they say that often if you are ADHD and autistic and you go on ADHD medication, many of your autistic traits emerge way more because you're treating the ADHD. And so then you can see much more of those autistic traits that are still there.
Interesting.
But I wonder if part of that isn't just taking the ADHD traits away and now it's like very obvious what's autism, but also if the stimulants are making you even more sensitive to, sights and sounds and whatever and tastes, then maybe it's like also amplifying, your autistic and ADHD like sensory needs.
Maybe.
Just a thought.
That is a neat thought. Maybe someone should do a study about it.
Yeah, not me.
Not me.
Study someone should start, just not us.
Yeah.
Call it a new segment.
That's a new segment.
Yeah.
And then the last one I wanted to talk about is the audio sensitivity, which we kind of chatted a little bit about earlier. So audio hypersensitivity, people present like they don't like loud noises. They're often bothered by background noises that other people kind of ignore, refrigerator humming, I don't know, the wind, or like a clock ticking.
I hate that one.
They're very much bothered by that. And it's this constant thing. Whereas I'll call it the control group will often kind of just ignore that.
And part of that has to do with habituation, right? That they can, like maybe they do hear it, but then their brain is able to like block it out. Whereas we keep hearing
and I think,
it.
Didn't we talk about this on a different episode? How neurotypicals are able to just like habituate with like pain, especially.
Yeah, we
right?
have talked about that a bit.
They're able to kind of like habituate and eventually just ignore entirely certain senses, like the refrigerator, like the clock tick, stuff like that.
Whereas we get like very stuck on it, and
Right.
same with autistic brains, they get very stuck on it.
Right. And then the hyposensitivity would be you're having trouble defining where the sound is located, or having trouble hearing what's called like a point call. Like if I say Grace, this is where we get into auditory processing disorder. It takes you a little bit to hear and comprehend that. There's like a little delay, right?
Yeah, I guess if you were like shouting at me from a distance, it would take me a minute to figure out like where that was coming from.
Yeah. And then that's how we get into auditory processing disorder. We've kind of discussed this before. This is a disorder where you hear the sound, but the brain has difficulty or is delayed in deciphering the sound.
So you might do the thing where someone will say something to you and you say, what? And then like as they're starting to retell you, like halfway through, you're like, then you give them the answer. Because you didn't not hear them. Your brain just needed time to process what you were hearing.
And you've coped by that, having that what be like a placeholder until and give your brain a little bit of time.
Yep. I do that all the time.
Yep. Same. And then, so in this meta-analysis also had a little snippet about people with ADHD and ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder. We haven't really covered that, but we should.
And I think there's, a lot of ableist elements to that diagnosis of like, oh, this kid who has these needs is expressing them in a way that's defiant.
Right. So
I won't rant about that right now.
Yeah, I was going to touch on it a little bit.
Ahead.
But people with ADHD and ODD have an increased incidence of auditory processing disorder. There's another article that I read that I don't know where it is, but I'll try and find it, that mentioned it's kind of like silly to think that like this is like what a finding, but like people with oppositional defiance disorder who have sensory needs, once you take care of those sensory needs, so once if they have like itchy clothes, you put the itchy clothes. If they're having trouble hearing you or the lights are bothering them, once you take care of those sensory needs, their like behavioral problems go away or like incredibly diminished, and then you're just like, of course,
what a concept,
right? Like,
thank God you studied that.
I feel like it's common sense. It's like one of those things that are like, what a finding, and you're like, is it, or is this just like obvious?
It's like how humans as a whole function and operate.
Right. This is, but maybe it takes like a peer-reviewed journal to like, I don't know. Anyway. It just me. I was like upset reading this. I go, yeah,
duh.
Like,
who wouldn't do better if their sensory needs were taken care of? Fucking neurotypicals.
Fucking neurotypicals.
Studying us like we're these like zoo animals instead of just like using common sense of like, oh yeah, I guess that would really bother me.
The lights really bother you. And you have the wrong lights, so the lights are bothering you. They're bothering you. They're bothering you. Of course, you're going to be like, fuck.
Turns out if we get the lights to stop bothering them, they'll stop being so bothered.
What a day.
Well, another great research article, Stephen.
Breakthrough.
By golly, I've solved it.
And there was a little bit about the cerebella and vestibular sensitivity, but I wanted to save that for when we talk about like mobility and balance.
Oh, okay.
Because I just thought it wasn't anything crazy, but I've talked enough.
Okay, you've talked enough. All right. So now that you have kind of shared what's going on in the body of, this hypersensitivity or hyposensitivity, I wanted to talk about stimming, which is kind of like the different behaviors that we engage in that take care of that hypersensitivity or hyposensitivity. All right. What stims are? What are stims?
Is stims short for stimulating behavior?
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
So from a chad.org article titled Stimming and Fidgeting Helps Some People with ADHD Pay Attention.
Sure.
Self-Stimulatory Behavior, often called stimming.
Yep.
Sounds dirty, but is when a child or adult repeats specific movements or sounds as a way to self-soothe or remain engaged in a situation, often referred to as fidget to focus.
Wait, I really like that.
Right? We do fidget to focus.
To focus.
Yeah. So this article also says that many people assume that only individuals with autism engage in self-stimulatory behaviors. While the behavior is included in the 5th edition of the DSM, as a trait of autism, it can also be associated with ADHD. And I know there is some discourse out there from the autistic community where some people don't love that ADHDers use the word stimming. But from what I've learned in grad school, like stimming was always used kind of to talk about, neurodivergent behaviors. And so stimming is like the correct word. If you're autistic and you have a different point of view, please let us know, because I would love to hear your input. I'm just going off of like what I've learned. But, I do want to acknowledge that some people in the autistic community, they might feel that it washes down their version of stimming, because there are some differences between ADHD and autistic stimming.
I wonder if you could categorize them, like they're all stims.
Yeah, like under the stim umbrella, but they look different.
You need to do a little categorization of different how they're different.
Well, so one article referred to it as, they said, think of ADHD stims as like sprinting, and autistic stims are more like long distance running. So ADHD stims are more like quick little, I guess, bursts, whereas autistic stimming is more prolonged, maybe like time, like for the amount of time that they do it throughout their life, and also the amount of time they do it like in a session of stimming, So I thought that was a interesting difference. Oh, also, it is important to keep in mind that just because a person engages in self-stimulatory behavior, I'm just going to say stimming. That sounds like you're masturbating. Yeah. Self-stimulatory behavior.
I'm just going to go participate in some self-stimulating behavior.
Dirty. So just because you stim, that does not necessarily mean that you have autism or ADHD. It says, to some extent, we all engage in stimming from time to time. The difference for someone with ADHD is that these behaviors are more severe, occur more often, and may interfere with how we function socially at school or at work. So everyone taps their pen sometimes, shakes their leg sometimes. Just just with all ADHD traits, even neurotypicals have them to some extent, but you really have to look at the extent of how often they're happening, how much they impact your functioning, I guess. All right, so different types of stims. Stimming can take on many different forms, and this kind of correlates with the different types of sensory sensitivity you were talking about, Kristen.
Yeah.
So people can do visual stimming, which can look like staring off into space, I guess, is stimming.
Every damn day.
You're stimming, I guess, when you do that.
Am I really?
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought of that as a stim.
Call me a stim pro then, because that's what I do.
You're a master. Drawing, like
like a doodle of the day?
Yeah.
Sometimes
I guess doodling. Writing your name over and over. I used to do that in school. I would sign my name over and over and over because I was just bored. And it would kind of keep me, give me something to do.
I usually doodle while I wait for phone calls.
Oh, doodle while you wait. Yeah, I'll do some doodling. And then spinning things like pens or coins and like watching them spin, I guess. Yeah, I don't do any of that. I don't do a lot of visual stimming. I think because my eyes are weird. So
You got them weird eyes.
I got a case of weird eyes. But mine is more like verbal, which makes sense because I'm much more verbal than visual.
You are so verbal.
I'm so verbal. So verbal and auditory stims can look like repeating sounds, excessive giggling, constantly clearing throat, which is one that I do. And I've done it for a long time, and I think my body now has to do it functionally because I've got all this phlegm. It's like when you wear chapstick for so long that your lips stop naturally lubricating, and then you have to wear chapstick forever, which is also what I have done.
Which is also you.
Putting on chapstick is a stim. That's me stimming.
You have so many stims.
I know. I always have Burt's Bees.
And it has to be Burt's Bees.
Yes, it has to be. But yeah, I think the clearing my throat thing started as probably a stim. My mom also does it, even though she criticizes me for it.
She's in denial.
Yes, she's just projecting. But I think I started doing it, and I've been doing it for so long that I functionally have to keep doing it, which sucks. I should see an ENT for that. Blurting things out, I guess, is a verbal stim. Humming, singing, or repetitively quoting from a movie or a video. I do a lot of that.
Sometimes I have my internal monologue, and I'm so engrossed in it that I can't tell what is in my head and what I said out loud. So I'll be halfway through a conversation, and then maybe a fake argument I'm having, and I'm trying to defend myself. And I'll just be at my desk, kind of staring off into space. And I'll be I don't even like wheat bread. And everybody's like,
were we in a conversation?
and I'm like, oh, sorry, I was just thinking about wheat bread.
Then there's also tactile stimming. So that's kind of more your traditional like fidgeting stimming. So things like rubbing your fingers together, chewing or biting your nails, chewing the inside of cheeks. Haley does that one. She was talking about in her episode. Right. She bites the inside of her cheeks. Haley, that's a stim. Twirling your hair, skin picking.
Oh, I'm a big hair twirler.
Me too. I can't wear my hair down or I'll just be like touching it over. Yeah.
Skin picking is another one.
Yes. Okay. And I just want to interject on this tactile one because there's also something called BFRBs.
Yeah.
Did I get that right? Yeah. I always mix that one up.
BFRBs.
Body focused repetitive behaviors.
Okay.
Tracy does a great episode of this on ADHD for Smartass Women. But essentially, BFRBs are a set of disorders categorized by self-grooming routines that essentially like go awry, this article says. So these include pulling, picking, biting, or scraping one's hair, skin, or nails. So that's like trichotillomania. We've talked about the compulsive hair pulling, dermatillomania. Oh, nice one.
Yeah.
Compulsive.
Because I've read about it.
Yeah. Skin picking and then the nail biting. And essentially it was because I was like, so what's the difference between like stimming and BFRBs? But from what I've read, it seems like BFRBs are more compulsive, like you can't stop doing it even if you're harming yourself. Like the trichotillomania is that you are pulling your hair to the point where you're like pulling it out.
Oh, like when you get a little bald spot in the back of your head?
Yeah, and like you want to stop, but you can't get yourself to stop. Like that's fair. My cuticle picking and my nail picking, I think they go beyond just like a stim because I'll do it even when I don't want to and I like can't stop myself sometimes.
Yeah, and then I also feel like sometimes when you like try to stop yourself, you're like, let me like find a different task to distract myself. But the whole time in the back of your head, you're like, don't pick your nails, don't pick your nails, don't pick your nails. Like, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you're like, this is all I can think about until I do the thing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I think that goes into BFRB territory. And then there's also taste and smell stimming. So this looks like, which I didn't realize this one either, smelling objects or people. Licking objects, putting objects in your mouth, and
like a baby?
Yeah, kind of like an oral fixation.
Interesting.
Like Lily loves to chew on plastic things, plastic straws, little pieces of plastic. And then eating can also be a form of stimming, both tactile wise and for the taste. You can be eating for the texture or for the taste or both.
I wonder because I know people with ADHD tend to have more like addictive type behaviors. I wonder if this can like tie into that, like especially with smoking, it's so tactile because you're holding the cigarette and then you have that oral fixation.
It's like the whole ritual of it that you really enjoy.
It's a whole ritual. You have to like go outside your building, but you're smelling the cigarette, you're tasting the cigarette, you're breathing it in, and then you also like nicotine doesn't help, but then like just having something, because I know Christopher is a former smoker and he's just heavily orally fixated, just needs to have something in his mouth all the time. So instead I bought him the little bubble waters, like the seltzer waters, because he was like, oh, well, and then he was drinking not like a lot of beer, but he'd have like a couple beers a night. And I'm like, what about bubble water? And it was like, oh, this is great. And then he just has like a bubble water all the time.
And then he's probably also getting the physical tactile input of the bubbles
too.
The
bubbles, he has something in his hand and he's incredibly hydrated.
Good.
Yeah.
More hydrated than ever.
But I wonder if sometimes this stimming, I feel like maybe something like smoking or eating can be a stimming, and that's how we get into things like binge eating disorder, and because you're seeking that dopamine. Smoking, I think, is a whole nother level because you have like the nicotine element, which is proven time and time again that's incredibly addictive. We have like a physical addiction to it and stuff like that.
But you're right. Yeah, on top of like the nicotine itself being physically addictive, we probably do become addicted to the stimming element of having that habit. That's a good point, Kristen. Good input. And then there's also, I know we're going to save this for another episode, but I just want to say it real fast. There are balance-based stims. So that can be like spinning, rocking, and swinging. And those I feel like you see a bit more in autism, but they can also occur in ADHD. I think just like I said, the sprinting versus long distance, it would probably be, less often for a shorter amount of time. And a lot of these behaviors come out in the form of like fidgeting, essentially, so like the shaking of the leg, moving around in the seat, playing with items. It looks like we're just like restless, but it's beyond just like, wiggling in our seat because we're bored. We're also doing that movement because we're looking for this like sensory input, the sensory engagement. So what causes stims and why do we do them? Should have done this section first.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But here we are.
So now let me tell you about stims. So, stims may well be an unconscious life hack to wake up somewhat sleepier ADHD neurological activities, increasing blood flow to areas of the brain associated with higher executive functioning skills and better concentration, which are everyday challenges for the ADHD crowd. So, I thought that was really interesting. I'll have to find what article that was from, but it was essentially saying that stims are kind of a way for us to stay engaged and present in the moment so our brains don't float off into space. So
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So it's like a way to keep us engaged. If I'm just trying to sit there and read without like doing anything with my body or hands, I'm going to get bored and I'm going to start thinking about other things. But if I'm doing this physical movement with my hands while I'm reading, I guess it keeps me kind of in my body. So I thought that was a good way of putting it. And that's kind of the big element that makes it a little different from autistic stimming, and I'll get to that. So this says a 2017 causal analysis found that hyperactivity, impulsivity, and inattention associated with ADHD influence the repetitive behaviors of stimming in various ways. So with restlessness, that may lead to a decreased ability to control your motor behaviors. So while most folks blurt, hum, or fidget from time to time, people with ADHD have a harder time stopping once we start, which that makes sense to me. We also have sensory processing differences like we talked about. So if you have ADHD or autism, you're going to most likely will have some hypersensitivity. And that means you can't always discern which sound or sensation of many is important. Like you can't decipher out of these many sounds or sensations which ones you're supposed to pay attention to. So if you find yourself chewing your pen or singing while working, you may be unconsciously offering yourself the sensory input needed to stay present and grounded in your body during the task. And then we also have the impulsivity, our favorite.
Heck yeah.
God, I am so impulsive, and I didn't realize until recently, like, just how impulsive I am. Impulsivity with ADHD may make it hard to delay gratification. Yes, God.
Oh my God. I hate that.
I know. Most people stim because it feels good immediately. That makes so much sense. And then instead of like, when I finish this page, I'll eat a cookie. It's like,
right.
Or I could do this little behavior right now, give myself a little burst of dopamine, and then it feels good.
Just like constantly inputting more dopamine.
Yeah.
Little dopamine bites.
Instead of waiting for that delayed gratification.
Got it.
And then once the habit of stimming starts, it reinforces itself. So, over time, you're just going to do it more and more because your brain has learned, oh, this is an easy source of a little pick-me-up.
This is a good dopamine pick-me-up.
It's like picking up TikTok, where the more you do it, the more your brain's going to, well, let's just get that easiest, immediate source of
I've been
dopamine.
in such a TikTok spiral recently.
You were doing so well.
I was doing really well, and then I crashed hard.
The corn song came out and changed everything.
It was the corn. How are you coping with corn TikTok? Because I am not doing well.
It is living in my brain so obsessively that it's like a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a catchy song. I'm not even mad about it. You know how when a song's stuck in your head and you're upset about it? I'm like, this is my life now.
Oh, I like it.
I love corn.
A big lump of knobs.
It's so cute. It's so
cute.
genuine.
It is.
I can't get it out of my head.
Same.
And then everybody's like responding to it and reacting to it.
Sucked you back in. Okay. Anyways. Okay. So then this article was talking about triggers for ADHD stimming, like what kind of triggers us to do this behavior. So triggers for ADHD stimming involve situations or tasks that task executive functioning skills or worsen challenged impulse control, hyperactivity, and self-regulation. So essentially, whenever we're in a situation where one of those things, where we're having to like kind of control those things a lot, we're immediately going to be like more exhausted and have less energy to kind of stop these behaviors. So things that might make our stimming worse are boredom, overwhelm when coping with prioritizing tasks. Oh my God. Yeah. Yes. Now that I'm reading that, yes. When I'm overwhelmed with like where to even start on this project.
Yeah.
I do a lot of stimming.
I just bite all my nails off.
Same. My cuticles, I pick them to shit.
Yep.
Poor sleep can worsen executive functioning skills.
Oh.
Yeah. Lack of exercise or mandatory sitting for long periods can obviously cause a lot of stimming.
Every Tuesday we have a OR case prep, which is we go over all the cases for the week. And everybody, like once a month, it's your turn to present all the cases. When I present the cases, one, I hate prepping for it because it's a lot of work, but it's very helpful. And I'm glad that we do it as a group. When I am not the presenter, I am just like rolling in my seat. I can't. It's bright and early in the morning. I'm like, let's go. I'm at work. I want to round on patients. I want to do cases. I want to operate. And I have to sit and I have to listen. And I'm just, I like lose my mind. You need a fidget. I need a fidget.
When you are impatient, it is so visibly obvious.
It's like
you're so bad at hiding it.
I can't even I'm like yawning and I'm like, don't yawn. That's rude. Don't yawn. I'm supposed to be paying attention.
You're probably shaking your leg.
You
look like you're ready to sprint out of the room.
I literally am. And I'm just like, my legs are just going crazy. And then I look at my computer. I'm like, I'm all over the place. And I know everybody sees me, but I'm just like, I can't help it. I get it. I need to be free. I got itchy legs. Is what it is. I got the case of the itchy legs.
You know what I've realized when I feel that way the most is a prolonged goodbye. When we're like when people are at the house and then we're trying to like say goodbye, I want it to be like, all right, bye. And now you're gone.
Yes.
I don't need it to be like,
fucking
we're going to stand around and talk and then we're going to
we'll talk some more.
I'm like, all right, let's get this hug
Could
out
you
of the
please
way.
tell Christopher that? I swear to God, I'm going to lose my fucking mind over this. And then he gets distracted.
Yep.
And then he's like, let's talk about something different. And I'm like, no! We've already said goodbye.
Yes.
I'm done goodbying. I want to leave.
Yes. When I am ready to leave, I am so ready to leave.
Yep.
And then there's so much like waiting around in that interim period where you're like kind of, doing the hemming and hawing. You're kind of like not really saying anything. You're all just kind of saying these back and forth empty things of like, okay, so yeah, in a few weeks we'll get together.
Have to reconnect.
Like, let's plan this later.
Yes.
Let's just get out of here.
Send me a goddamn email so I don't check it.
Yes. It's just, I just want to be done with it.
Goodbye.
Done. Yeah. Leave
See you next time.
See you next Tuesday.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh my God. Any like engagement party or bridal shower where like you have to say the PEMDAS of operations, you have to say goodbye to the bride.
Yes.
And everybody's like, oh, let me just say goodbye to the bride. Let me just go say one thing to the bride.
Your turn.
I have to wait my turn to say goodbye. That's why at our friend, this happened.
At Gav's engagement?
Yeah, at her bridal bridal shower.
Yeah. That's exactly the situation I was thinking.
Literally was losing my mind because I was like, I just want, but then she had like aunts and uncles, and then she doesn't even live in Maine, so they haven't seen her in a while. And then I'm like, Mom, I don't know what the non-culturally appropriate term for this is.
Irish goodbye.
That's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, same.
Just duck out and go.
See ya.
And if the listeners, if you don't know what an Irish goodbye is, it's a terrible term.
Is it offensive?
I don't know if it's offensive.
Irish. Tell us if that's offensive.
I don't know if it is offensive, but I don't know the other term for it. But it's when you just like duck out of a party and you don't say goodbye. And I think in some situations it's okay.
I'd be flattered if I had that named after me, honestly. Yeah. Because I think it's the best way to say goodbye at a party, at least.
I don't want to. I think it's a great thing, especially if it's a really busy party and it's
and you've
loud.
Already chatted with the host.
You've already chatted. They know that you came up. They know you showed up.
Yep.
And if you just duck right out of there.
And then you could even text them after and be like, hey, I wanted to say goodbye. You were really busy talking to so-and-so.
Right. As a hostess, I'd be like, oh, thank you for not burdening me with your goodbye.
Yes, because then we were like awkwardly milling about, kind of waiting our turn of trying to jump in there.
God.
And then a cousin comes up and we're like, damn it.
You're like, my mom's like, no, let me just say goodbye. When did we see Gab last? And I'm like, we'll see her again at the wedding.
Yes, because also then when you're ready to leave the party, it's like, all right, I'm ready to get out of here. I don't have these minutes to stand around.
It will literally take another half hour to do that.
Yeah, no.
This is Christopher at every social function. He is the worst goodbyer because he can never say goodbye.
That is my nightmare.
And it's literally the worst.
Yeah.
I think I need to start telling him probably an hour before I'm ready to go.
Good strategy.
That I'm ready to go.
That's a good strategy.
Because he's just such a social butterfly.
Okay, and then also when we're feeling, no, that was both of us. When we're feeling fear, stress, or excitement, those are also triggers for us to stim more. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about autism versus ADHD versus Tourette syndrome.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, this is just a little bit, and then I'm almost done. I'm going to fly through it.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right. According to an article titled Vocal Stimming and ADHD, What's the Connection? By Karen
It's a great article name.
Sosnowski, PhD. Sosnowski. Sosnowski.
That's
She's
perfect.
Russian, maybe. Stimming behavior can look very much like tics. So tics are what you'll see in Tourette syndrome. Elena talked about that a little bit on her episode. Tics are also repetitive movements, but unlike stims, they are involuntary, anticipated, and not particularly pleasurable. So that's like the really important difference. Tics are features of Tourette syndrome and other tic disorders. So while ADHD stimming differs from autism, stimming, and tics, ADHD, ASD, and Tourette disorder symptoms can overlap. Tourette syndrome is a severe tic disorder that develops at a young age. While tics are repetitive movements that look like stims, the experience of tics is different. ADHD stims are unconscious and can be stopped and started. So while you may do them like impulsively when you're not paying attention, when you do put your mind to it, like you can stop yourself from doing it. They can be soothing or focusing, and relief is felt from doing the stim. So tics, on the other hand, feel uncontrollable. They are unpleasant, and relief is only felt when they're over.
Like a burp.
I guess kind of like a burp.
You can't unburp a burp.
Yeah, you're right. It's common.
And it's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Especially if you hold it in.
Yeah.
And you feel better once it's done.
Yeah. So I have heard from people with Tourette syndrome that they can, if they're really, really focused on it, it depends on the person. Some people can control their tics, but it's very, very physically uncomfortable for them.
Oh.
So if they absolutely have to, it's kind of like masking where and some people I bet can't, like it's just like uncontrollable.
Right. But
I think some people can suppress sometimes, but it just feels so uncomfortable for them. Yeah. And so it really just feels good when it's finally over. Like a burp. Although, actually, I think a burp feels good during the process. So I'm going to say not like a burp.
Have you ever chugged a bubbly water and tried to hold that burp in?
No. Why would I do that?
Well, because it's incredibly uncomfortable. But once you burp it out, you feel great.
Yeah, but the burp itself feels good.
Yeah, but the pre-burp buildup feels very uncomfortable.
But I think a tic would be like if the pre-burp and the burp felt bad, and then it just feels good when it's over. I like the feeling of a burp while it's happening. I enjoy the process of a burp.
You enjoy the burping process?
Yeah. Whereas a tic would be like, all right, now that burp is finally over. That felt bad, but now it's over, and I'm glad. Yeah. So I think stimming for me would be more like a belch.
I don't enjoy burping.
I do.
I like when burping is done.
I like when burping is done. All right, let me finish this. All right, so then this also says that differences in the brain's dopamine transmitters and receptors may also be a factor in what is different about ADHD stims versus tics.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tics also usually onset with a precursor feeling, so like generalized or local to one body part. So like we were talking where you can kind of feel a burp coming on.
Right.
You can feel these tics are about to happen in your body.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that's the difference between ADHD stimming versus tics. And then the difference between ADHD stimming versus autistic stimming, those also look a little different. Often, ADHD stimming looks similar to the repetitive verbal stims and stereotyped movements performed by people with autism spectrum disorder, ASD.
Mm-hmm.
Some vocal stims associated with ASD include shrieking, humming, and echoing words or phrases from books or movies, which can look more like echolalia, where it's like you hear this phrase said and then you immediately repeat it afterwards.
Got it.
ADHD stims we do them to cope with feelings, whereas ASD stims, so autistic stims, do it to communicate feelings, which I thought was an interesting difference. So ADHD stimming is more like trying to cope with that boredom, with that, frustration, overwhelm, whatever it is, where we're trying to get ourselves regulated. Whereas autistic stims, this is the problem with using research articles, because I know that autistic people also, some of the stimming is to help self-regulate.
Right.
So I'll have to look more into that, because I don't think this is the full scope of how they're different and how they're similar.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I think
the
major way that autistic stimming presents can be to communicate different feelings of excitement or anger or overwhelm or whatever. Okay. So I think this might be helpful. This article titled ADHD Stimming, Why It Helps and What to Know by Danielle Renee Boone says stims are as varied as the motivations behind them. Factors such as prevalence, intensity, and duration may play a role. Specific movements and body postures, however, delineate ADHD stims from typical autistic stims. Think of it like this. If ADHD stims were runners, they'd be sprinters, and autistic stims, which often last longer, would be your distance athletes. So that's what I was talking about earlier.
Got it.
So there's definitely overlap between ADHD stims and ASD stims, but autistic stims can manifest in certain distinct behaviors like hand flapping, toe walking, and finger flicking. Lining up objects like boxes or toys instead of playing with them, and tracing letters or symbols in the air, or even looking at things in your peripheral vision is generally linked to ASD. And actually, when I worked at the preschool as a speech therapist, I had one preschool student who was autistic, and to look at things, he would turn his head and then look at it out of the very corner of his eye. It was like a very distinct way he had of looking at things. It was very interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. And then the last thing I really would just want to say about stimming is that it's really important for us to stim. It's important for ADHD and
Stim
autistic
away,
people
friends.
to stim. Yes. It's a way of self-regulating. It's a way of self-soothing. It's a way of giving ourselves dopamine, of staying in the moment, of keeping ourselves engaged. And so it's really important to know that, to advocate for yourself, and to work on kind of letting go of that embarrassment around your stimming, you know, because it's a functional need that we have to keep our bodies happy and healthy. And neurotypicals might judge us for it, but it's something that we just like have to do, and it's going to happen. So deal with it. And a lot of stims, especially for girls and femme presenting people, because we're judged more harshly for fucking everything, a lot of maybe...
Sorry, I thought... Moving on. Sorry.
Okay.
I heard it as we're judged because we are fucking everything instead of for fucking... I totally misinterpreted that. I was like, Jesus, this turned...
We're always fucking things.
Fucking things, and that's why we're all discriminated against.
Stop judging us for fucking things.
Yeah.
No, we're like judged very harshly for our stims. And so a lot of the times we are like masking stims that we don't even realize that we're doing because we've been masking it for so long. Like, you know, an example is maybe you go from whatever your natural stim was as a child, then maybe it turns into like tucking your hair behind your ear or picking at your nails, as opposed to like whatever stim you were doing before, like a hand flapping or a spinning or something that's like less socially acceptable, quote unquote. And so you've kind of developed this new, more socially acceptable version of stimming.
I would say hair twirling in general. Yeah. Some people see that as like flirting. We're not flirting.
No, we're not flirting with you. Don't flatter yourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I've heard that it's really important to, like, when you're by yourself, because you even mask in front of yourself because it's just so internalized you don't even know what you're masking. So it's really important to kind of like move your body when you're by yourself and try to let go of this idea of like, that's weird, or, you know, you shouldn't do that, and just see what feels good to your body. So learning what stims we like is really important for us. Don't let anyone tell you differently.
Stims are important.
They are. And then I have a little bit more about kind of what you can do about stims if they are more harmful, because, you know, there are harmful stims, and it would be helpful to you to kind of find replacement stims that will still give you that feeling but not be causing harm. But I'll save that for maybe a bagel bite or something, because they do have some good advice also about doing things like behavioral therapy, like habit reversal training, lifestyle changes. But this article did do a good job of saying like self-advocacy is something that they suggest for people, of proactively informing your bosses or your coworkers, classmates, that your brain uses vocal stims or physical stims or whatever to focus, and it doesn't mean that you're not listening. And you can ask people whether they find it distracting, and would lowering your volume or putting your hands beneath the table be a fair accommodation. Because it can be distracting to other people. I'm not saying just like, you know, be tapping your pen all the time in a meeting. I'm sure people fucking hate that. But kind of finding that compromise of, I still need to stim. What's something I can do in this moment that won't be super disruptive for other people?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Grace.
Preston.
Do you have any stims you want to talk about?
No, I'm pretty perfect. I don't really think I stim. Actually,
Fuck off.
I stim so much.
You are always stimming.
Yes.
You're stimming while you're talking right now.
Literally. I do a lot of fidgeting, a lot of nail picking, a lot of cuticle picking. I think mine is to the point where it is a BFRB because I can't stop myself from picking at my nails and cuticles. I flick my nails sometimes.
Your nail flicker.
Yeah, and I can't. That's one that I don't realize I'm doing it, and then Ian will have me stop, and I'm like, okay, sorry. And then 30 seconds later, I'm doing it again. I'm like, oh, sorry. The hair twirling, combing my hair, hand through my hair over and over.
Yep.
And then, repeating phrases or quotes and making up songs. Like a phrase or a song will just get lodged in my brain on a loop, over and over and over. And I have a really hard time controlling my impulse to not be saying it or singing it over and over.
Oh,
so I usually just do.
Not allowed to sing Potter's Potties anymore?
Potter's Potties. Oh yeah, Ian was like, you have to stop. You have to stop.
You were banned from Potter's Potties?
That is the only song of ours that he's been like, no. Oh, that and Chef Santa. Ian hates Chef Santa.
Wait, he hates Chef Santa?
Because I would not stop.
That's
I
my
get it.
favorite. Ian.
Yeah, I get it. It's annoying. I wouldn't stop doing it.
It's adorable. It's about Christmas magic.
Well,
and
take
a happy
it up with
chef.
him, because those are the two.
I will. What about the Cinemagic song?
He is the one who sings the Cinemagic song, and I said, no more Cinemagic. But then he'll start singing it, and then I'll start singing it.
Okay, but how are you both doing? So how is he doing with the Korn song?
Yo, love Cinemagic. Oh, the Korn song, it's me singing it more. But when I start, he will join in, because I obviously have made him listen to the Korn song many, many times.
Many times. It's great.
And at this point, he still enjoys it. So if I start singing it, he'll jump in with a big lump with knobs. It has the juice. But it's just, the way
we'll post it to the Instagram.
Yes,
if you've lived under a rock and you don't understand what the Korn song is from TikTok.
Yes.
We'll post it.
Yes. But I think it's just the way that, especially words and sounds get stuck in my head, because that's kind of how my brain works, where I love words and sounds.
Yeah.
That it really gets lodged in there, and I have to let it out. What about you, Kristen?
I can't believe he doesn't like Chef Santa.
Take it out. Yeah, he does not. He hates it.
I'm going to find him.
To be fair,
I'm so proud of that song.
I sang it for so long. It would just get stuck in there, and then I'd be like, I'm sorry, but I gotta. Chef Santa!
Okay. It's a great song.
I agree.
If you've met me, you might have noticed that I have a few stims.
Just a few.
Just a few. One of them, we've talked about it, itchy legs.
Yeah, you got them itchy legs.
I'm a runner. I'm a track star. I just have to move. I do a lot of knee bouncing. I'm doing it as we speak.
You've always been the biggest leg shaker.
I've gotten in trouble for it at school because I was bouncing other people's tables and just and they're like, you have to stop. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's one of those stims that unfortunately can become very disruptive.
Quite disruptive.
Yes.
I do the hair. I used to twist my hair around my fingers so tight because I liked the sensation of losing circulation in my finger.
Same.
Okay.
Where you get a few thin pieces of hair.
No. I would get a big old chunk and just twist it, and then maybe that's why I lost a little bit of my hair a while ago.
Maybe.
I also just pulled it out.
I like taking just a few strands and tightening it really tight around my finger.
It just feels really nice.
Yeah, I like having the circulation cut off.
I like watching it get cut off, and then I like
what's wrong with us?
And then I like releasing it and then watching it the color return.
That's one of those things that you just do it. And then
I'm glad I'm not the only one. I thought I thought I was gonna get ridiculed.
No,
for this.
It's one of those things that I've always done, but I haven't really thought about it. But now that you're verbalizing what you like about
satisfying.
it, I'm it's weird that we like
it's
that.
It's weird. I'm in vascular surgery now, where we see people with no circulation to their limbs anyway, and I'm just routinely doing this. But
yeah, that is strange. You went into the right field.
Yeah.
I love watching it.
I do. I have a lot of verbal stims. Let me get some water first so I can accurately. It's one of my favorites, my bubbles.
Yeah, you love the bubbles.
Sometimes I just do one big bubble. And then I get faster and faster, and then I'm like
yeah, you do that one.
I try to do that one alone because it's real odd. It's unsettling, I would say.
I don't mind it. It's just
but you've known me. I feel like if I'm if you're in a dark hospital and you hear the
Yeah, I guess that's concerning.
Yeah.
Unsettling.
Like, what is that? We don't know.
The Joker's coming down the hallway.
The bubble joker. The boper.
Oh!
Another one I do is my bird call, which now that I'm put on in the spotlight, I don't know if I can do it. No. Give me a couple times to do it.
It's like an excited trill. Yeah.
It's not, I'm not doing it justice.
Yeah, it's kind of like you do it when you're happy. It's almost like a cat's purr plus a bird call.
Yeah.
It's like a trill cat's purr.
I'm going to work on it.
Yeah. I like it. I think it's sweet.
Yeah, no, I can't do it now. Now I got to be in the moment.
Yeah. It's got to happen naturally.
It's not, I can't force it.
Yep.
Something I can force that I'm excited to share with you is my lap padding.
It happens a lot.
It's you just like pat your lap, but I usually do it when I'm like on the go somewhere that I'm like excited. Like when I'm on my way to the OR, I'm like, or to the lunchroom to get my little snackies. But I've stopped doing it on my way to the lunchroom because I have to go by both of the surgeons I work with. I have to go by their office, and I realized I was like, they're gonna think I'm bonkers.
They already think
they already
that.
do,
I don't
but
know
I
why.
try to like reserve it to a minimum. Like they've scratched the surface. They're like, all right, she's odd. And then, but they just don't even know. They don't
have
even
no
know.
idea.
Yeah. So I try to keep it to a minimum. Just, to keep the peace.
Yeah. So the lap padding is kind of like in moments of excitement you do it where you're like, oh, I'm happy.
I'm like excited about my snackies. So I pat it out.
I do some leg smacking as well, but I think mine is more like either to get some energy out or to like get myself to be like focused. Like,
yeah.
All right, let's drum it out.
Pat it out.
Yeah, pat it out. And then we can sit down and get going.
Let's go.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, those are my biggies.
Big stims.
But I got a lot of them.
Yeah, I do as well. We're always fidgeting.
I'm always
around.
blurting. I can't like. Sometimes I just go just to get it out of my body.
Yeah, I'll kind of make like toneless sounds throughout the day. There's not really singing. It's kind of just like ba-da, ba-da, ba-ba-ba-ba. No song, no melody.
Right.
Kind of shouting different notes.
You know what was stuck in your head for a really long time?
What?
Some other musical stuff.
Oh, that was stuck. That one comes and goes a lot. I have some that like return over time, over and over. That one gets
a repeat customer.
Yes, that and Chiquita Banana from Eric Andre Show.
Oh, yeah.
Eric Andre, he makes so many songs that just like get weaseled. That's the thing. That's why I love so many weird shows and like weird creators is their stuff. Because I'm also neurodivergent, it really gets weaseled into my brain.
Yeah, and then it never leaves.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse.
But yeah,
that was our episode.
That was our episode.
Stimming and sensitivity.
And sensitivity. I hope you feel sensitive. Take care of those sensitives.
Yeah,
needs.
Take care of your sensitivity needs, please.
Mm-hmm.
Because turns out, if you take care of your sensitivity needs, you just may be able to focus more.
Oh, I was going to say you'll be less of a problem to normal society, but I like your version better.
Yes, because it's not about protecting normal society.
Yeah.
It's about us being able to have our needs met. And that's more important than politeness.
If you liked our show, you should follow, like, and subscribe on anywhere where you get your podcasts, whether that be Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or the other ones.
Yep.
If you want to reach out to us, you definitely can. You can find us on Where's the Feather at Instagram, Where's the Feather on TikTok. You can join our Facebook group, Where's the Feather. There's a lot going on there, so come prepared. No, don't. I don't think anybody does, but there's a lot going on there. You should definitely look into it. There's a lot. Someone posted, oh my God, I wanted to give a shout out to Lady Gaga the chicken.
Yeah.
I love her.
Our mascot.
Our new mascot. She's amazing. She's stunning. An icon. I love Lady Gaga chicken.
Yes, I do as well. And if you don't know what we're talking about, go into the Facebook group and
You'll
out
find her.
The chicken.
She's so great. Thank
Nice
you for
floofy
posting
chicken.
that. If you want to say more things to us, you can. You can email us at where'sthefeather@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can leave us a review. 5 stars only, people.
Yep.
And
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Hope you learned a little bit. If you have any quirky stims that you want to share with us, let us know.
Or pizza secrets.
Yeah, or pizza secrets.
Or anything else.
Or just your thoughts on whatever. On hugs. Send us your thoughts on hugs.
You know, we're going to take a poll on hugs, but I would love to hear everybody's thoughts on hugs.
Yep.
Are they necessary? What's your hug preference? I need to know these things.
Yeah, so let us know.
Yep.
All right, and we are going to fade out on our bod, but before then, we will talk to you next week, and thanks for joining us, and bye.
Bye.
All right, let me prepare. Oh, so today's bod has been provided to us by our Australian friend down under, Enya. She sent us this bod.
I'm so pumped for it.
I love this bird. Thank you, Enya, for this submission.
I've never heard of it, but I want to look it up. Like what it looks like.
Yes, please look at what it looks like. It's ridiculous. It's called a tawny frogmouth. They look like they have frogs' mouths, so the name is very accurate.
Oh.
Isn't it silly?
Look at this guy.
Look at that guy.
He just looks like
a silly guy. He looks like a Muppet.
He looks like a Muppet. He looks like Eagle Sam. Doesn't he?
Yes.
Like Eagle Sam who's like just mad about something.
All right, are you ready to hear what they sound like?
Eagle Sam who's like, how about like a smaller Eagle Sam who's like upset that his neighbors aren't cutting their grass. It's been like 2 days. Looks like a forest over there.
Is this your father?
This is my dad if he were a bird.
Your dad kind of is an Eagle Sam.
He is very much an Eagle Sam.
Wow, now that you've made now that I've made that comparison, that's all I can see. / Larry Bird.
/ Larry Bird. He does look very much like a Larry Bird.
Kristen's dad looks exactly like Larry Bird.
Like they've aged together, too.
Yes, he gets stopped on the street.
Yeah, he has a couple times.
Hasn't he given people autographs before?
Yeah, of his name, Marty Stanhope. Because he's a piece of shit.
The classic dad move. That is such a dad move.
I don't know. At first I was like, oh, he doesn't understand that they're asking for Larry Bird's autograph.
No, he knows.
He knows. He's just like, oh.
It's so funny. Like, that's so funny. Other dads dream of looking exactly like a celebrity, specifically so they can do that exact dad joke.
Dad joke.
It's top tier dad joke.
It hasn't happened for a while, but it is funny. He does look exactly like Larry Bird.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, let me play this bird sound.
Now he acts like Eagle Sam, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's hear this bird sound.
Okay. That was pretty good.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
that was a good one.
That was good.
All right, give it a go.
Damn it! All right, let me play it again because I don't want to go off of what you did.
That's fair.
All right.
That's exactly what it sounds. My God, is there a tawny frogmouth in here?
Yeah, I'm over here.
It sounds like an owl trying to whisper.
Yeah, that is the perfect description. It does sound, it's kind of owlish, but different.
And
I guess the
whispering owl.
A whispering owl. Yeah, whispering hour.
It's a good one. Do you have a fun fact about this thing?
Fuck.
Oh, man.
No, I forgot.
Hold on.
The fun fact is that it looks like, it's called frog's mouth because it looks like a frog's mouth.
Hold on. I'll find you a fact.
All right.
It's often mistaken for an owl due to its call and nocturnal habits and similar coloring.
We already made that joke ourselves. That's not a fact. That's just a common observation.
Observations.
Yeah. Also, this is like at the very end of our fade out. We're so good at this. We are expert podcasters. We know what we're doing.
The closest relatives, they are related to owls, but their closest relatives are oilbirds, potus, and owlet nightjars, which...
Nightjars?
And true nightjars. And that's going to be our next spot is the nightjar.
All right, keep an ear out for the nightjar.
We're going to call it nightjar. Yeah.
All right.
Nightjar.
Nightjar.
Oh my God.
Okay, bye.
The nightjar.